Welcome back, everybody, to a very special presentation today on Valentine's Day, where the only thing more broken than our hearts are widow minds. Coming up next, we have uThermal versus Astrea, the two players in the lower bracket of Group A, and it's going to be a really fun match. In fact, I have the red-eye fact of the day. Astrea has actually 2-0. Oh, actually, sorry, excuse me, all the way around. uThermal has 2-0'd Astrea back in the SC2 SEA OSC Global All-Stars. Now, that's a mouthful, but these two players have met in the past, and they're going to be going at it again. And interestingly enough, uThermal's PVT against non-Koreans, and only within the endemic of WCS Premier League, is almost at 70%. How's that for being favored in this matchup? Now, of course, there's only 13 matches where we have Astrea registered in the past 6 months. But then again, maybe this player, he's been in the back, he's been getting some coaching, resetting his head. This time around, he can prove himself and get a chance to advance in second place. It's elimination time here in WCS Premier in Group A. Who's going to be the first player to drop out? We'll find out, beginning with Rotterdam and Nathanius.
Thank you very much, Dan. I was actually aware of that, indeed, that they have played against each other pretty recently, as my microphone was a little bit too high. Apologies for that. uThermal is definitely a strong Terran player, and we've known it as well over the last few months. I would even say the map before this as well. A lot of the maps are pretty good for Terran against Protoss. It's not necessarily that Terran is very good against Protoss. It's more about the maps. And the moment you start playing Inferno Pools and Catalina, Nate, life's beautiful as a Terran.
Life's good.
Yeah.
Life's good, man. I think the maps are going to have a really big impact on this series. I'm very excited to see where we end up. But, yeah, this is an interesting match. And I don't know how long ago that series they played was.
It's like roughly 2 months. It's the tournament that Snoot won. It was
that one.
Yeah, it's like a $1,000 one tournament. It has a crazy amount of good players signing up, mostly foreigners. I think Bly had a very good run in the tournament. Igus, the root Terran, had a very good run in that tournament. Astrea lost in lower bracket round 2 against uThermal. uThermal went a few rounds further than that before he was eliminated.
It's an interesting series, though, I think, to look at on paper. I didn't get a chance to actually catch those games, but looking at the way that this map pool is, it's hard to compare it to previous matches. That tournament wasn't played on the WCS Season 1 map pool, right?
Yes, it was previous.
Yeah, so at that point, I think the maps play a really big hand in this, because some of these maps for Terran versus Protoss, it gets pretty interesting, right? You have maps like Vani Research Station, which are reasonably open to drops, but then you've got things like that tight choke point for force fields. It's more difficult to put pressure on the natural. But Astrea versus uThermal, this is a very difficult match to call.
Yep, definitely, especially because we've just rarely seen these two guys go up against each other. One series is not something we should make it way bigger than it is. And also Astrea, like I said before, he reminds me a little bit of Masa. He's one of these guys in the North American scene that we know is very good, but he doesn't stream his games, doesn't really sign up for every single IEM qualifier, every single tournament out there either. So we don't get the chance to cast him a whole lot, but obviously if you're capable of qualifying for WCS Premier, not just Challenger or even just make a good run in the qualifiers, you're capable of something. We saw it last year when he had a very good run in the Enders game on Blu-ray tournament. That was his breakthrough, at least within the North American scene. Now he's waiting for that global breakthrough. But this is a series that I think uThermal should feel confident in. That should be a series he should look at like, all right, I came all the way to America. I'm playing against Astrea. I know he's a good North American Protoss player, but I'm one of the stronger Terran players in Europe. I should win this. Otherwise, this has not been a successful journey for me.
Yeah, and it's also possible that these two play more than we might think. Although, I guess, being on the West Coast, Astrea doesn't play too much on his North American account, so perhaps he does a lot of laddering on the Korean server. I know some guys on the East Coast like to play on the European server quite a bit, which also makes things a bit interesting. The maps that we have for this series, we're going to start on Vani Research Station. Map number 2 will be Overgrowth, and the final map will be Catalina. So, if Astrea doesn't get that 2-0, it's going to be a pretty wild game 3.
Now, if you guys watch some of the qualifier cast, I've been pretty vocal about the way I feel about playing PvT on Catalina. And I started doing the Nathanius build, which includes an in-base Nexus, just because I think it's so hard to go after 3 bases. I may as well just build in my main, Nate. And as you
get extra photon overcharge.
Yeah, and as you have experienced firsthand, it's not even all that bad. Now, I don't think Astrea is going to build a Nexus in his main, of course. But we'll see. He definitely needs this very solid plan if it would come to game 3. But he's going to have to play very well to even get there, because uThermal is good in this matchup. He's a very strong Terran. And I haven't seen Astrea in a while in this matchup. It's not going to be easy, but it should be a very fun series for us. Once again, this is, I think, the beauty of WCS Premier 2015. We see so many matchups that we have never seen before, or at least very, very rarely, which is just fun. It's exciting, and we don't know.
The fact that these two, it's like, yeah, they've played before, but this is a whole different ball game. You know, this is an offline environment. Both players on setups that they've never played on before. This is both, you know, their first day, you could basically say, on the job playing in Premier, and that's does make it a bit more of a knife fight, I feel. You know, it's like you've thrown two guys that haven't really been in the cage too much up against each other, and that's sometimes where you get the craziest results.
Yeah, and Vani Research Station is a fun map to start off as well. It's my favorite map of the new of the 4 new maps that we currently have in our map pool. It's the type of map that creates a lot of crazy games, and the natural, I think Johan Mello, my good friend Litot, has been vocal about this as well, and he said this, that it kind of reminds him a little bit of Nimbus, and I totally agree with that. In Nimbus it was always like, okay, it's very easy to take your natural, but it's also very droppable for Terran players, and Vani Research is maybe not as extreme as Nimbus was, but it's still, there's a lot of area in that natural that Terran players can drop, and if you go up to 3 bases as Proto, suddenly you spread yourself out over a pretty large area, and it's drop paradise for Terran.
Yeah, it's one of those maps where I think setting up on 2 bases for a little while isn't bad, and I've seen quite a few very, very strong Protoss plays based on that, which you can't. It's not too much that you can really do if the Protoss controls well. So
no, 2 bases is easy. 3 bases, that's where
that's where the fun begins, Roddy.
No, that's where it starts getting scary, Nate. You're so biased, gosh.
What can I say? Gotta support my Terran bros out there. We're loaded into Vani Research Station. Our first player in the bottom position, the Red Terran. He is uThermal.
And on the top side of Vani Research Station, we have our blue Protoss representing root for root. It is Astrea.
So, how do you like to open on this map, Kev? Because I've actually, although Astrea has clearly shown he's not proxying or anything this game, I've seen a lot of very aggressive plays in that area. I wouldn't actually have been surprised if uThermal tried to do something similar. But it's actually gas first.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay. I think this is one of these moments where if Astrea scouts this, he should be in a pretty damn sweet position, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to scout it. I'd be surprised if Astrea does anything other than a 1-gate fast expand and then follow it up with a robotics facility, get your observers out, get them in place, make sure you don't take crazy damage from Widowmine drops. I personally, I'm not the biggest fan from the Terran point of view of this opening. Like, I know you can do a ridiculous amount of damage with it, but this is also an opening that has to do damage, because if you don't do damage with this, your command center is so much later that you're putting yourself in a pretty dicey position.
Yeah.
And I like more what we saw from Maro the other day, and we've seen from so many Terrans, where they open up with, you know, the Reaper fast expand and then still go up to a very fast Widowmine drop, which of course arrives a little bit later, but sometimes, as we've seen with the way that the meta plays out, sometimes doing the same thing but arriving it later will actually do more damage than rushing up to it, because a lot of Protoss players are very prepared for that initial drop. It's like, oh, okay, you know, I guess he's not doing it, I guess everything is standard, I have to start preparing for Sim Bio, and then suddenly Widowmine show up. It's like, oh, damn it.
Well, important things to note, without the probe scout, Astrea can't be certain what is coming his way. uThermal has a few options as to where he can go with an opening like this, since he did not start a quick reactor on that barracks. With no probe, he could have gotten away with it. He's still mining full saturation on his refinery. It looks like we're going to see him go straight up to his starport. Could be for a fast Widowmine drop. Yeah. There's still a small potential of Hellion play as well, but I feel like if you want to do Hellions, you usually get a reactor and just build 2 and kind of expand behind it. So
the thing is, though, if I was Astrea right now and I've not seen a Reaper pop up yet, then it's kind of like, you know what I think is going to happen. Most likely he's going to try to Widowmine drop me. There's a small chance that he went command center first. Not a whole lot of Terran players do it in this matchup. It's something you always have to keep in the back of your mind, though. You can't just blindly assume that he's going for a Widowmine drop and then 100% try to hard counter it, and meanwhile the Terran has a better economy than you. Yeah. You don't want to find yourself in that position either, but I'm pretty damn sure that the #1 priority on Astrea's checklist right now is, alright, make sure that I'm safe against Widowmines.
It's going to be very important to see what tech choice he goes for. You'll need a robotics facility to deal with that. Now, I think if the probe comes up here, and you see these 3 depots up here like this, you know, denying the scouting, only a couple Marines, this should be a bit of a tell, because if he had gone for a fast command center, then he wouldn't have needed these supply depots. So it has to be a quick tech opening, and it will just be straight away into, yeah. Well, I mean, this is a build order that I'd say I'm pretty familiar with. This is something that Yeah,
I like the
this is pretty much all I do, to be honest, Kev. And I like this build a lot.
I like the Widowmine
to see how he
placement.
controls.
Right now it's just a safety Widowmine in case he had to worry about some fast oracles. Of course, the uThermal has not scouted at all, so you want to be safe against that. But he's like, well, if this was a proxy Stargate, then by now this oracle would have probably showed up. Since it did it, I'm going to fly out, I'm going to pick up everything, and I'm going to do a serious amount of damage on the other side of the map, which he needs to do. Right now the worker count, 29 probes against 22 SCVs. I would say it's very acceptable for Astrea to lose three workers.
No. Is it? Yep. Barely.
I think he barely missed it.
Yeah, barely missed it. So the drop's going to go into the main. 2 Hellions are going to try to... Excuse me, the drop goes to the ramp. The Hellions are going to try to run by the main ramp. And this is tricky because the Widowmine cuts the base off. If you want to move your Stalkers across, you could potentially lose it. He does have the Observer there. The Hellions have not moved in yet. He actually gets the Mothership Core after getting that Photon Overcharge. So now he can just go full aggression to the main. And these Hellions running up into the mineral line. The Stalkers and Probes distracted by these Marines that he's continuing to zip around. But the Hellions, one force field, yeah. Locks him in there.
Yeah, but he's still taking a lot of damage already. Already lost 3 probes, lost the Mothership Core, and now he lost the Sentry as well. And he's taking a lot of damage on one of his Stalkers. 2 Stalkers just don't have enough DPS.
Well,
the Immortal.
Yeah, the Hellions just chase him down and picks those off. That Immortal.
Oh, that Sentry is going to die too.
Yep. And now it's just Probes and Marines versus an Immortal.
Well, I said the uThermal had to do a lot of damage with this drop, and he definitely did that. This is almost game-ending damage. These Marines are doing very well against this Immortal as well. I wouldn't even...
he could, he would just... I mean, I would just consider, just going full Tom Cruising over there to that Immortal, and he will pick it off.
I think this is almost game over. There's barely any money right now. He's able to warp in 1 unit. He warps it in too close, so this unit is taking way too much damage before it's even able to take out or push out any damage.
He's broke. Astrea has nothing. There's nothing he can do.
This is a slugfest.
Well... Tell you what, this is sometimes they tell you the stories about mind dropping and where it can lead to and the dark places it can take you in your life. This is one of those success stories that makes people mind drop a lot.
Yep, still right now only 40 minerals, so he's not able to warp in a second unit. He's chrono boosting his warp gate. He has almost enough minerals to warp in a Stalker. He has gas for it, and there we go. Stalker again in range of these Marines, Nate.
Yeah, so at this point, the Medevac, if he doesn't pick this off, will allow him to just heal these Marines basically indefinitely.
This is it.
Yeah.
I think Astrea will tap out right now. GG is called. And uThermal takes game number 1 on Vani Research Station very convincingly off the back of a Widowmine drop. When he got the Mothership Core, like killing the Mothership Core is great, but I don't feel that is in general game ending. I'd rather lose my Mothership Core after I get out Photon Overcharge than losing 4 or 5 workers immediately. But it just really went wrong when he warped in that Sentry, and that Sentry just got picked off, and then 2 Stalkers just did not have enough DPS to kill any Marines that were being healed by this Medevac.
Yeah, the whole point of where you put the mine is to just keep the Protoss from coming over to defend, but the fact that he gets the Mothership Core so quickly really makes it difficult to kill these Marines because the Medevac heals so much, and without a Photon Overcharge to defend the main base, like the Stalkers just don't kill the Marines very quickly. The Hellions forcing everything away. This went about as perfectly as it could have gone for uThermal.
Yeah, they're getting the Sentry as well without really losing anything, and now these 2 Stalkers taking a lot of damage and not killing any of these Marines. It just completely spiraled out of control. Then he loses that extra Stalker as well, and loses this one and the Sentry before the Immortals out. And Immortals are already not very good against Marines and Hellions, especially not if they're all by themselves.
No, and this was just a very, very well-controlled mine drop. Behind all of this, by the way, uThermal at the end of that game was finishing stim. We can see he already had it on the way at this point. He's building a Marauder back home. He's getting his command center up, and yeah, there's no coming back from a position like that as a Protoss player, but that's why we Terrans like to do dirty builds like that, Kev. What can I say?
It's a risky opening by uThermal, because once more he needs to do a certain amount of damage with it, but it's safe to say he accomplished that goal.
Yeah. Well, a nice thing to keep in mind about maps like that, and not as much this next map we'll be playing on Overgrowth, is that the distance, as much as you're like, oh yeah, the main and the natural are tucked right next to each other, it's great, 2 peas in a pod, but it's like there's actually such a long amount of distance that the Photon Overcharge can't cover the entirety of the ramp. So once you drop that mine, you're saying you defend only one of your bases.
It's so interesting to think about as well. What would have happened if that probe did catch a glimpse of that Medevac? Then maybe he could have repositioned his unit a little bit differently.
He starts to put an overcharge a little bit earlier, and maybe he kills the Medevac, then the Marines are useless. There's so many what-ifs, Kev.
Yep. I mean, this medevac drop did arrive pretty much as quick as it possibly could have. uThermal did not cut any corners at all. Or did not really waste any resources on anything to be safe. He got the Widow Mine temporarily at home as safety, and after that he just picked up everything, flew across the map, didn't SCV scout, didn't build a bunker on top of his ramp. So it really arrived as quick and as hard hitting as it possibly could have, and it was good enough.
Yeah, nice quick game number 1 win for our Red Terran player in the northeast position. He is uThermal.
And over here on the left bottom side of Overgrowth, our blue Protoss still representing root for root. It is Astrea. Hailing from San Diego. Almost a home match for him.
Yeah.
2 hours, Nate. I'd consider that my territory.
You get home field advantage in StarCraft.
Yeah, man.
If you're actually at your home, then I guess it's pretty big difference. Most people don't really. I feel like this isn't talked about, enough sometimes. Tournaments is you're not in whatever your normal chair is.
Yeah.
You don't have your desk. The desk height might be a little bit different.
Like I was about to say, real home field advantage would be Astrea showing up in his GMC truck with his desk in the back of his truck, and brought his own desk. And he's just like, "All right, guys, this
would
is
we
home
even
match."
allow him? It's like, I want to play on my own desk. Sorry, guys, I can't compete unless I'm on desk.
He's like, "I've got my desk with me," and he's like, he has like his own little custom-made desk on the WCS stage. Like, well, I guess technically this.
There's nothing in the rules that says you can't bring your own desk from San Diego. So. And now the Koreans start flying in with their desks. Yeah. They've realized they have a new level they can take against us.
They bring over their entire internet PC, eh?
Well,
start over their own little bang here. We can go there. We can practice.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. To be fair. Wouldn't mind that one bit. So Probe Scout this game. He wants to make sure he's not up against anything as crazy as last game, and he won't be. It's a Reaper opening from uThermal. Nothing over the top. Nothing super crazy.
There's one SCV took a very interesting route.
I think he's checking for proxies.
Yeah. Wants to make sure nothing funky is happening. Sometimes, of course, you send your Reaper across the map and then suddenly there's a Zealot and a Stalker knocking on your front door, or 2 Zealots and then the Stalker is the follow-up. And he's like, yeah,
and then it's pretty much over.
I have no bunker. This is not looking good for me. And then your Reaper will do damage on the other side of the map, but you also lose every single SCV at home. So uThermal wants to make sure that nothing like that has happened on Overgrowth, and he will drop his command center as soon as he has minerals for it. So efficient opening so far for him.
But a nice, uThermal has gotten a nice edge from the way that last game went, that he didn't show too much. Like now, Astrea can't be sure if after this Reaper it's going to be for that factory or the follow-up barracks. We can see that based off the gas uThermal has, he's going to get a factory very soon. But he has to be like worried about everything now, whereas uThermal's just kind of playing. It's like, okay, not doing anything super crazy. We'll see how late the second gas was as well.
It's such a quick factory, Considering the factory is a command center going up as well. I really think this is a very strong Terran build, and I think this is, like, I would almost say it's almost the meta by now, because so many Terrans are using it on ladder, and we've even seen it in Pro League multiple times and stuff. I think this is a very strong opening, and it's a very hard opening to deal with.
I think you make a really good point, Kev. Most people probably don't realize this, but when you compare this to the gas first build he did on the last map, the gas first build, you start your factory at about 3 minutes and 5 seconds, around there. This game, he started his factory around only barely a minute later, really.
It's like 4 minutes and 5 seconds, but he has a command center.
Yeah, he has a nice safety net behind it in terms of economy. You still want to do damage with it because you're delaying stim, but you have a little bit more leeway as far as if it doesn't do damage, you're not completely dead.
Nope, and if it doesn't do damage the first time, there's often a follow-up as well, and then you can try it the second time, and if it then still doesn't do damage, well, at least you have stim, and then you can try to do damage with stim. So there's so many ways for a Terran player to do some damage with this opening. The Reaper sneaks in, gets a probe as well. That's always a very satisfying feeling as a Terran player. And Nate, anybody who's seen my stream, a very frustrating one for Protoss.
I've seen what Reapers can do to you, Kev. If I play versus you, I promise I'll only mind drop our command center first. We won't build the Reapers. It's all good. So the robotics facility is finished for Astrea. Observers being chrono boosted out makes a lot of sense. Of course, you will need those against the mines. You don't want to be caught with your observer halfway across the map when the mines enter your base. First medevac is halfway done. He's going to get an engineering bay as well, just in case.
For everyone who has just joined us, this is the lower bracket match. The winner of this series will move on to play a deciders match against either Jigawa or Snoot, which is going to be our upcoming ZVZ that will be played after this. Of course, at the end of the day, 2 players will advance and 2 players will be eliminated. That is the same as last year in WCS. But that's one of the only things that's the same.
Yeah. everything changed except for one or two very small things.
All right, so we have a bunch of Marines marching across the map while the medevac with 2 Widow Mines is going to try to fly into the main. Very curious to see where Astrea is going to position his observers. He can't possibly, well, he sends his first observer across the map and then observer number 2 and 3 stay at home.
So the first observer gets there and he's like, I'm being mine dropped.
And
Where is the medevac?
Now this is the red alert moment. This is like red alert, red alert. Do I have observers in position? Yes. Do I have stalkers in position? Yes. He currently has 5 stalkers in his main, and he has the mothership core in the natural. He needs more than just a photon overcharge in the natural, I think. Even though, you know, these Marines don't have stim. I actually think if uThermal would have...
I think he's wisely backed off. Like, he activated... If he had waited until the Marines were like halfway to the Nexus and then done it, then I can see it. But putting some of the Marines in this medevac,
interesting.
Is still very risky.
Yeah, there are a lot of stalkers in the main, and even though he doesn't have blink, yeah, Twilight Council is going
second
down.
medevac is coming. That's why he's going to try to split up. Once photon overcharge is done, he's going to drop both bases.
And he's going to have a mine in
It's
both
dirty.
drops as well.
Oh, the elevator is real. He's all his units are at the mineral line, basically waiting now.
This is going to be tricky for Astrea. He should have one more photon overcharge in the near future. Doesn't have it yet. He's going to find these units in his main base now. He has to be very careful with these stalkers. Don't run into Widow Mines. He has a lot of stalkers though, so this is very doable for our Protoss. But he needs to micro his units properly, Nate.
Yeah, second drop is coming in now. That observer on top of the mine, so he should be able to see it and pick it off. He does nab it, not losing anything.
Gets
he
the
will
medevac.
Scan, kills the observer. Yeah, but losing one of his medevacs definitely hurts.
Kill the mine, kill the mine, kill the mine. He doesn't kill the mine.
Oh, almost didn't.
Oh, gets the mothership core there as well. And now these stalkers are trapped, Nate. There's no observer over here.
Run past the mines. Oh, double kill.
God. That hurts. Now all these probes, oh my god, it gets a second shot as well. Now all these probes are in a very, very, very dicey position as there is nothing to protect them. No photon overcharge, no stalkers on that side of the river either.
Probes gone wild, man. They're running around. There's nowhere to go.
This is already done the damage that uThermal could possibly wish for.
Man, I mean, you know what? I've done a lot of mine drops in my days, but I haven't seen all the probes just chilling over here like this before. This is a new one. Oh, they're just targeting him down. Grabs 3 on the way out. Now the Colossus shows up, so he'll still clean this up.
Gets another stalker as well. I think Astrea is not having a good time. And let's not forget about these Widow Mines. He could reposition one of these mines.
They're totally still there, aren't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Astrea is just going to sacrifice 2 workers, and he's like, you know what, I'd rather lose 2 than 7. Take a look at the probe count now. We're looking at 46 probes against 48 SCVs now.
That's pretty good for the Terran.
Yes, of course, as a Terran player, you don't want to be down. Or as a Protoss, you don't want to be down in workers ever in this matchup. The only thing that Astrea can take away from that is that he picked off, you know, 2 medevacs, he picked off all the mines, and he did slow uThermal down a little bit. But uThermal actually has another command center in his main base, Nate.
Yeah, and he has 2 bunkers up front. He's basically saying if you try to do some sort of gateway Colossus counterattack, you will get wrecked. And Astrea's like, okay, well, I'm just going to take my 3rd base and go double forge because honestly, at this point, I need to or I'm totally dead anyway.
Yep, you can't really just sit on 2 bases against triple orbital. You need to take a risk here as a Protoss, and Astrea's doing that. But it's going to be so difficult for him to properly split up his units. I think that's always the biggest challenge for Protoss in this matchup. You know, our awesome Korean Protoss players, they always make it look easy. You know, like, a few stalkers here, Colossus there, photon overcharge there, and they never take damage. But I can tell you, Nate, as a regular guy on the ladder as Protoss, it's very hard to figure out how many units do I need here, how many units do I need there. Especially if you took early game damage. I think Astrea is going to have a very hard time not taking damage from drops as soon as uThermal goes into full, you know, aggro mode.
Yeah, and it is nice to an extent that uThermal stim is delayed enough that he hasn't actually moved out onto the map yet in fear of that potential Colossus counterattack, and it's actually really important that Astrea buys himself a little bit of time because uThermal has seen this 3rd base, and Astrea, he just needs time because he's going to start his 2-2 very soon. He'll be ahead on upgrades, and as a Protoss player, this is where you can start to win fights when you're significantly down on supply.
I am very worried about this army from Astrea over here, though. This is not a strong army, and if he loses that mothership core, like if uThermal would grab all of his bio units and stims forward and clicks on that mothership core, he's going to kill every single Protoss unit over here. He's going to recall out. Very, very smart. uThermal just threw down another scan. I think he was about ready to stim forward.
It's like, oh, where'd the army go? Disappeared.
Well, that recall, of course, also means no photon overcharge, which will make it even harder to defend on multiple locations, or even just one straight-up fight. That's going to be tricky, too. First Vikings are out on the map as well.
He sees the position of this army. He might just dive in on this 3rd, and that's exactly what he's going to do, moving in. Of course, as you said, no photon overcharge available, so that Nexus is not going to be soaking up any extra damage from him. And there's not really a lot of Zealots either, so the Marauders will wreck basically every unit in this army composition.
Yeah. There are 2 Zealots right now while we're looking at 5 or 6 Marauders. That 1 Viking is not able to kill the Colossus, but more Vikings streaming in. A lot of probes are falling down already as well. And Astrea is just not able to put up a very good fight over here. There's way more DPS in this Terran army than there is in the Protoss army. 20 probes have gone down as well. And I'm afraid that this game as well, Nate, just like the series, is almost all over for Astrea. There's way too much damage output in all these Terran units, way too much economic damage being dealt in this base.
The mine drops, his aggressive play worked out really, really well for him to kick off this game, and of course, nabbing him game number 1 in a very fast fashion. GG is called, and uThermal will stay alive as Astrea is eliminated from this season of WCS.
uThermal showing us once more that he has excellent understanding of this matchup. That was pretty well known among the European scene. Perhaps some North Americans didn't know how good he was in this matchup. Well, that was just almost a clinic of how to be aggressive in TvP and make it work. Of course, you know, Astrea will look at this series and be like, man, I could have done so many things better. I normally handle it so much better. But, you know, it also comes down to being on the stage, and it's tricky. And perhaps he's not super familiar with uThermal
It's his first time. uThermal was not very gentle with those Widow Mines, to say the least.
You know, at this point, I thought, like, you know, I think Astrea might be able to do this.
When he locked him in the corner of his base with the 2 Widow Mines, and he had to trade 3 Stalkers just to get out and try to defend his probes, like, that's where...
I felt here he could have killed that 1 mine, and I think he wanted to, and I think he misclicked on the Marine. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't see any purpose on shooting on that Marine. And then he killed the Mothership Core, and then these 2 mines are sitting here. It's like, well,
like the way his SimCity was either. There was there wasn't even any way to walk around.
And then he's like, Okay, well, and at this point we kind of knew that this one was pretty much all over, but the crying as well. It's never a good sign when all of your probes are evacuating the natural to the middle of the map. I can tell you, Nate, that is not where you want your probes to be.
No, I don't know about any tactical probe positioning to try to jump on Marines out of the middle of nowhere.
No, it's like it's an ambush, guys. Wait, it's like they're like coordinating with each other. It's like, all right, as soon as these Marines walk down the ramp, we jump on them.
It's like the probes will hold them in position. It's like probes. They don't even have that many hit points, man. Just kill them.
These probes are like communicating with each other, but they got guns and we got tasers. It's not a fair fight. Excellent performance though by uThermal. So he will have another shot later on today. Of course, we have our ZVZ coming up between Snoot and Jigua. That should be a very fun ZVZ. We've seen quite a few ZVZs from Jigua last year, and his Zerg vs Zerg is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But well, we know that Snoot is rock solid in that matchup. So I'm excited about that series, and I'm definitely excited about the final series of the day as well. See how uThermal will do against Zerg for the 2nd time today.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool to see who the first player out of this group is. Will the prophecy as foretold come true? Will Snoot make it out at number 1? That's what's on everybody's minds, Roddy.
Well, Dan is ready with a new guest on the couch. So, Dan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rotterdam and Nathanius. An excellent job casting that series. I'm joined by a special guest from the audience. His name is Ping. And I wanted to share his story because when I got to talk to him, I felt like it was a very positive message overall. So, Ping, can you talk to me about your background as being a fan of StarCraft?
Yeah, so I don't actually play myself. I purely got in as a spectator. I had a friend that was watching a lot, and he pulled me in, and I got really excited. And I just enjoy watching, and it's my first time at a live event, so it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you expound upon that a little bit more? When you were first introduced to StarCraft II, what made it compelling for you to want to keep watching compared to some of the other games that are out there?
Some of it was the casting. I love the casters for all the different events.
They are really handsome.
Very, very handsome. And just the level of gameplay, I think, it's been around for so long that you have all these established players, but they're still upcoming players, but watching them pull off all these new strats constantly and playing at a high level, I think that's kind of what drew me in.
And then from there, have you been able to share that same enjoyment of StarCraft II with some of your friends as well?
Yeah, so I have friends that play different games, but I've been so excited about watching StarCraft that they always see me watching it or talking about it, texting about it, that they've started to watch more and more too.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. You're local here too to LA, right?
Yeah.
It's cool. And have you been able to meet up with some of your friends or local bar crafts or South California gatherings? Because I know there's a few groups out here that do that.
I haven't done that yet, but I do. I'm here with one of my friends, and we talk about it pretty frequently.
That's pretty cool. Well, I really appreciate that you're able to share this story specifically because I feel like people really want to get out more of that positive message of people still really enjoy watching StarCraft a lot. And I wanted to ask you one final thing about this before I have one more question about that is what is important to you as a spectator when you're watching StarCraft, and when you're introducing this to another person, like how would you go about it? Say if they knew nothing about gaming altogether.
Oh, man, that's a good question. I mean, I think for me, the first thing was getting really excited about the different races and sort of, pitching as, what the differences are.
He's a Zerg fan, by the way.
Yeah, so I'm like really excited to see Snoot today. But yeah, just getting plugged into sort of the story because there's so much with the gameplay that gets pretty complex pretty quickly. But just getting excited about, just the units and stuff. I just thought the Zerglings were cool and just the idea of a big swarm of aliens,
That's right. And not to mention that the StarCraft universe is pretty well built out with the 3 opposing races which have their own distinct characteristics as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. The last thing I want to ask you about is, I know you're rooting for Snoot, but is there any favorite player throughout this entire round of 32 else besides Snoot that you're pulling for, even though I know you're a Zerg fan?
I have to say it's Snoot. So he's definitely my number 1.
All right, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ping, for stopping by, and I think he represents a really powerful symbol of, he doesn't necessarily play too much of StarCraft II, but he absolutely loves what's going on with WCS, and we hope you guys do too. In fact, let us know by hashtagging WCS on social media, on Twitter and Facebook, and letting us know some of your favorite moments, highlights, players, or just general shenanigans that's going on here on Valentine's Day. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have more action here in the premiere for WCS Season 1. Stay tuned.